Thanks very much. My name is Bruce Kelly. I'm the program manager at Farm and Food Care, and this is Amy Reimer. She's working with me on our Manure Timing Matters project. So we were asked to come and speak today about our Timing Matters project. I don't know why I'm flipping this over because I'm not going to look at it anyway. So our Timing Matters project, we've been working on this project under a few different names for a couple of years now. And so we, in fact, have two projects that go on at the same time, and I just want to explain their names because you've heard them both. So we have the peer-to-peer winter manure working group. That working group is a group of all the livestock commodities, and we come together and we work with farms who've been reported to have spread manure in the winter. That project has been around for 3 years now, and so it kind of runs from November until April. In the fall, we have some articles placed in farm magazines about winter application, and then we work, reports can be made through OMAFRA, and over the course of the winter we collect a few actual reports of farmers who've spread manure. And then the peer-to-peer aspect is that the commodity groups go and have a conversation with those farms about winter spreading, and we have a survey, in fact, because it's a lot about gathering information on why those farms winter spread. So that project has been going on for 3 winters now, but there's an appreciation that when you actually look at the long-term solutions to winter spreading, there's only so much golding you can do when the tank's full in February. The solutions to winter spreading require a more sustained initiative, and that's what this Timing Matters project is about, and a year-round discussion about manure, manure storage, manure application, and manure equipment. So Timing Matters is in fact a year-round now program, so we're kind of, some of us, some of the Farm and Food Care work. We did a year-long campaign on farm fire awareness last year. We're kind of using that as a model. So we've got some funding through OMAFRA to talk about manure stewardship over the next year and a bit. Actually, it goes until March of 2021. So we appreciate that manure generation, storage, application is a year-round, well, for you it's an occupation. We've got storage, we've got generation, we've got the economics of storage, generation, application, the equipment used to apply, our cropping choices and the opportunities to both use manure as a nutrient for those crops and those crops to provide opportunities through harvest windows to apply manure at different times throughout the year. So our goals, the other thing I did with this presentation is something I've never done before, but I was so enlightened or excited by some of the things that came up in the previous speakers. I went to a presentation I did at FarmSmart last weekend, and I copied slides back into this presentation, so I now have no idea what is actually going to come up next, but I think I got it right. So our goals are fairly simple: to raise awareness and talk about manure throughout the year, explain the risks of runoff when ground is frozen, and explain the options available for equipment, storage, application, and timing. So our key messages, we love manure. We are fully entrenched in manure being a nutrient to grow crops with, and particularly beyond its NPK value, it's the micronutrients or organic content that comes with manure, and the value of soil testing and applying manure within the context of an agronomic plan. But then bringing an understanding that those nutrients, we have a responsibility to keep them on our farms and apply them in responsible manners. So we've been doing this for a couple of years, farmers that we've interviewed in the winter, and then when we kicked this project off, we actually did some more interviews with farmers who admitted to it, volunteered to us that they apply in the winter. We talked to a couple of custom manure applicators, and we talked to one of the major equipment manufacturers about farmers' attitudes about the environment, how they value the trade-off between dollars and dollars required for storage and new equipment. And I mean, the answers we got were not really surprising, right? Don't have enough, quote, days of storage. I've been to the OMAFRA compaction workshop and I don't want to compact my soil. So what better way to not compact my soil than drive a heavy machinery on it in February when it's really, really hard and it won't compact my soil. And then some others, it was just, that's how we roll. We spread manure in the winter, we spread manure every week, we spread manure every 2 weeks. That's the way we've always done it. It's worked for us so far. That's just how we do it. So, you know, we know the main reasons why farmers have spread manure. So, you know, we have to then in our messaging kind of flip that around. So, in our, we don't want to call them misperceptions because they are the farmers' perceptions, but it is not a good way to reduce compaction and ruts. The other thing that came up in our interviews with farmers was that solid manure is different. That the straw is still on the field in the spring, so the nutrients must still be there too. Solid manure is different, and so in our messaging we're looking to point out that the nutrients can run off solid manure too. And then we get into, you know, some minor uses. Some farmers that spread in the winter, it wasn't from their main storage, it was the heifer barn. They may have moved to a liquid manure storage system, but they still have a heifer barn or a pack barn or the calf barn, and they were cleaning out a minor manure storage as opposed to their major. And then some, that's how they roll. They have a long tradition of winter manure application, and that's how they do it on their farm. So I'm going to bounce through a bunch of these slides pretty quickly. You don't need a lecture on why it's bad to spread in the winter, but I did want to show you some of the slides that we use when we talk to farm groups. So it's the weather that's unpredictable. Winter rains, we've now had 2 of them in this crazy warm winter. There should be a video that plays. No manure was spread in this video. This is a good friend of ours, Yards. This picture is actually a year old, but it could have been taken, of course, 2 or 3 weeks ago at that 2-inch rain. And it just reminds us that when the ground's frozen and it rains, very little of it soaks in, the water runs off, and any nutrients that are on the surface are likely to move with it. I just got about 5 slides. These are the ones I use when I talk to farmers about winter spreading. This easily accessible data I got from Discovery Farms, where they talk about the water that runs off. And so when they talk about runoff, of course that's not nutrients, it's just the amount of water that runs off farms. Actually, half of it, sometimes more than half of it, can occur in the winter when none soaks in and it all runs off. So this is a really busy graph, but this is different years, 2004 to 2010, and R1 and R2 and R3 are different fields. So I'm just going to look at 2 years. So this 2004, at this R1 and R2 site, they had in dark blue the amount of phosphorus that ran off on non-frozen ground, and the light blue bar, which is a larger bar, actually ran off on frozen ground. So pretty simple stuff. R1 and R2, they spread in February, about 5 days before it rained, and at R3, they only spread in September. And so you've got essentially a 4 or 5-fold difference in the amount of phosphorus that ran off with winter application as opposed to September. 2009, my bars moved a little on me, but essentially the same thing. Site R1 was spread in February and R2 was spread in November. So it's a little bit, I'll jump back to the different years. So it is different, but in those years where they have examples where they can compare early fall application with a February before rain application, you see the amount of phosphorus that runs off is significantly higher when it's applied before a rain event. This is similar data It's a little more complicated. It's got total phosphorus on the bottom and dissolved phosphorus on the y-axis. But it shows that if no manure is applied or early winter application, the amount of phosphorus that runs off is much, much lower than in late winter applications applied in February and March. So, why is late winter worse? It's because of concrete frost. And I'd not really seen this term used, but I grabbed it from a fact sheet from Wisconsin. It's a fairly simple concept to grasp that after several freeze-thaw cycles, the air spaces that normally are in soil are filled up with water, and then that ground is frozen concrete frost. You know, when you try and put a backhoe in the ground and a quarter mile away you feel it through your knees. That's concrete frost. And it's impermeable, it's just like cement. It's a hardened, it's the difference, normally the reflective difference we have between ag land and urban hardscapes in the summer. And that we know those urban hardscapes run water really fast, and when our ground is frozen, it's the same. Thanks, Bruce. So beware of late winter concrete frost. And so we want to address a couple of the myths. Is solid different? Solid manure is just liquid manure waiting for good rain. The nutrients will run off. And I appreciate there's zones of gray, right? Like some, you know, there are things that can be spread that look like manure that aren't very nutrient dense. Bedding at some level, I agree, you know, it's got no nutrients in it at some level, but solid manure per se, the nutrients will run also, and so we want to address that misperception. And in fact, our upcoming article in Dairy Farmer magazine is going to address that one, right, Amy? I think so. And so the other misconception is compaction, of course, and this is where we want to convince farmers when they're making their decisions, when they're juggling the balls per se of values, that we add another ball in to their juggling of not wanting to compact their soils. And yeah, but if you spread in that late winter period, you're not going to compact your soils, but the risk of runoff is high. So then I've just got a few pictures. This is courtesy of Chris Brown in Elmer at the Tim Hortons drive-thru. So I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and it's, you know, we spend all this checkoff money trying to make ourselves look like we farm sustainably and we're stewards. And you guys are more into regulation than I am, but I don't know how much good advertising for farmers does a picture like that undo. And it's at the Tim Hortons in Elmer. And so, you know, I don't get into whether it's regulatory or not. It just doesn't look good. More pictures from our files. This one is pelletized biosolids. So just to round out the pictures, one of the reasons Amy's in on this project is to be more creative, because if I just show pictures of manure for the next year, you'll soon tune out. So Amy is going to show us in a couple minutes some of the Twitter posts that we've started to put out that are a little more creative than just showing brown on white. So yeah. So alternatives to winter spreading, obviously you know what these are, and we talk about them in our project. I'll turn it over to Amy for our last couple of slides on what we're doing and how you guys and gals as a group can help us spread the word out.
So we are currently doing a cross-promotion strategy with Fertilizer Canada, where we are combining Timing Matters promo stuff with Farm Smart. We used their slide, they used our slide. The Ottawa Valley Farm Show, we're going to do a co-branded display there. We are going to be on the 4-hour bus tour with one-pagers, postcards, and possibly our pop-up. We're going to be at Manure Expo. We're going to have a booth there.
We'll have to look at the budget.
And the Woodstock Farm
Maybe we
Show.
know some people that can get us.
Let us know. And the Woodstock Farm Show, we're going to have a co-branded display with 4R. So the activities that we currently have in progress are our website, Timing Matters. It's a link off of the Farm and Food Care website right now if you're looking for it. We also are collecting core informative materials, creation of articles we're doing with DFO, some in bee farmers and stuff like that. We have a Twitter page that we just created and we're using. We also are ordering our pop-up banner soon. And we have postcards and one-pagers, as you guys got today, that are in the works. So some stuff that we're considering for our Timing Matters campaign is infographics, animations, video snippets, and interviews with farmers and subject matter experts. Other trade show opportunities that we haven't touched on. Advertising articles, possibly podcast opportunities, and speakers for meetings. So how can you help us? If you could like, retweet, or interact with us on Twitter, we're at Timing Matters ON. If any of those tweets speak to you, please retweet them, send them out, comment. Use some of our PowerPoints in your deck, and or bring information to clients. Thank you.